Politicians tend to be motivated by a variety of things. There's a number of drives within politicians that leads them to follow the uncertain life of politics. A life that is both uncertain but also contains within it the promise, the potential of really substantial power and the ability to make a difference and impact people's lives. So politicians are often motivated, for example, by a desire to bring about social justice, a desire to bring about equality, or a desire to improve the sort of livestock of their own class, if you like, maybe the super wealthy or more working class or middle class people. They're also often driven by a desire, potentially, for their own fame and fortune. But Donald Trump is driven by some of these things, but most importantly, the underlying factor that seems to drive him more than anything else is revenge. And that has been the case for most of his life. I'm going to describe where that comes from, how it's manifesting, and what the underlying reason for all of this is going back in his life. So recently we've seen Donald Trump doing what he had said he was going to do when he re-entered the White House, and that is to exact revenge on people who he considers to be his enemies. So James Comey is now being investigated, the former director of the FBI, who Trump had once lauded. And if you remember, there's this scene where Trump is sort of hugging him, in an early meeting after he became president. Now, of course, because James Comey has been straight with people about how he found Trump as a president to deal with, he's now investigating James Comey. He's investigating and has tried to proceed with charges against John Bolton, who, again, somebody who he spoke very highly of, somebody who was a member of his administration. But then what John Bolton did is, after he left, he was very clear in his criticism of Trump. He wasn't in any way shying back from telling people about the sort of disastrous way in which Trump works, and for example, the way in which one day on the way to a UN meeting, he told Bolton that he was about to withdraw from NATO. He was going to announce it there and then, and Bolton had to scramble a whole bunch of people to try and prevent him doing that. And the way in which parts of the defence establishment were afraid even to go to sleep at night in case Trump did something really rash like that all of a sudden. So he spilled a lot of beans on Trump, and so Trump has tried to exact his revenge against him. So he is going down the list of people who he wants to exact revenge against. His director of FBI, Kash Patel, actually created an enemies list, a revenge list for Trump, which Trump is going through diligently with Kash Patel's support and sort of full-on engagement and utilization of the whole infrastructure of the FBI. So this weaponization of the FBI, of law enforcement, is something Trump has always wanted to do. Why? In order to exact this huge revenge that he's fundamentally wanted. Now this sort of being driven and carried by revenge isn't new. It isn't something that's just happened in this term. It's always been part of Trump's fundamental drive. It's what gets him out of bed in the morning. It's what he dreams of before he goes to bed, for those few hours when he sleeps. It's what really motivates him almost more than anything else, exacting revenge. I remember hearing a story by somebody who wrote a piece on him in the early years, so decades ago, and this journalist, when he met Trump, realized that Trump spent most of the time going through who he wanted to exact revenge against. And he said he'd never met anybody who was that determined to exact revenge. And even years before that, when Trump was sort of relatively young in the New York real estate business, he met Richard Branson. And Richard Branson reported that he was shocked at the extent to which Trump steered most of the conversation towards people who he wanted to exact revenge against. So revenge is a consistent theme in Trump's life. Indeed, his run for the White House may well have been a revenge against this.
Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke. Donald Trump often appears on Fox, which is ironic because a fox often appears on Donald Trump's head.
So you see there, Seth Meyers, together with Obama, who also was doing the same at a White House Correspondents' Dinner, a dinner when the press and the politicians come together to roast each other, really targeted Trump for ridicule. And Obama did that several years in a row and brought people like Seth Meyers to join in that process. And you see there Trump's rage just filling his entire body. And revenge against that is what he fundamentally wanted. So the revenge drove him all the way into the White House, and now it's driving his actions in the White House, and especially in his second term too. So where does this rocket fuel of revenge come from for Trump? Because revenge is basically his rocket fuel. It's the thing that keeps him going. While the MAGA base are there for the ideology and all sorts of other things, Trump could change his ideology any moment, so long as he's able to ride a wave that eventually takes him to where he wants to go, which is in a position of power so he can exact revenge. He wants to exact revenge at the moment against the whole of the liberal, progressive population in the States because they hate him, and so he wants to exact revenge against them. Hence, moving troops into various parts of the states, all blue states, so that he can exact revenge against them. So where does this sort of tidal wave of revenge that Trump rides day and night come from? Well, it's something that exists within him, something that exists deep in his psyche, and it must come from a very early stage in his life. Now, we know that Trump's father, Fred Trump, was in the business of regularly ridiculing his children. He in fact did that to such extreme degrees that he led to the death of one of his children. Fred Trump Jr., who had done very well in his life, who had become a pilot, an airline pilot, was regularly ridiculed by his father, told that he was just a glorified bus driver and that he was ashamed of him and his pathetic life. And he would talk this way to all of his children to varying degrees and at different times of their life. Without doubt, Donald Trump had not escaped that. So in the early years, before he actually went off to sort of military school, his father sent him to military school in order to try and straighten him up because of his behaviour. And so Trump must have received a lot of ridicule from his father in terms of being useless, being good for nothing, being uncontrollable, all sorts of things that he must have poured upon him. And so Trump then went to military school and came back trying to prove himself. And he's been trying to prove himself ever since. But there's clearly a big crevice within him where there's basically a button that can easily be pressed. That's the button of ridicule. Because he was ridiculed by his father, he wasn't taken seriously by his father. And his father then, once he came out of military school, came out of college, then got him to basically do all his dirty work, his legwork in his business, sent to collect rent from people who were defaulting and this kind of stuff. So, he made him into a bit of a lackey, again, because he didn't respect him. So Trump was treated like that. He was looked down upon by his father. He was ridiculed. And so that led him to have a big desire to exact revenge. Now, of course, because his father was so domineering and scary to him, he couldn't actually exact that revenge against the person who it was due to, against the person who really did ridicule him, his father. So what did he do? He displaced his anger, his desire for revenge on other people. So this is basically a displaced emotion. It's a common psychological mechanism when the feelings we possess towards one person, the feelings we want to really sort of pour onto one person, we're unable to do for various reasons concerning the dynamic. So this wasn't possible for Trump because his father was such a domineering person, such a scary person to him, he wasn't able to actually give him the retribution, the vengeance that he wanted to. So in the end, the psychological defense mechanism is to divert that elsewhere in order to protect him and in order to vent and externalize that strong energy and emotion that he has. And ever since then, he's basically been displacing this desire for vengeance against his father onto pretty much everybody else, as I say, onto Obama and his administration, which is why he ran, onto the progressive left, who he's continuing to batter in any way he can. He doesn't care about laws, he doesn't care about justice, he doesn't care about fairness, he just wants revenge. And the same with members of his administration, who he feels betrayed by, who actually went out and spoke the truth about him. This happens to all presidents, of course, and they don't make it their entire life's work to exact revenge on them. But Trump is doing exactly that. He's going out of his way now to find how to arrest people. He even told Pam Bondi, didn't he, in a message which I covered in a previous video, that you need to go out there and start arresting people. You need to start going out there, because people are laughing at me, and you need to stop that. These people who I've said are on my list aren't being arrested. Why isn't that happening? So this is what drives him day and night. And he's been driven by this fundamentally because he has some unresolved issues with his father fundamentally, who is the person who he originally wanted vengeance against, but never could and never will. And so as a result of that, that waterfall of vengeance, that tsunami of vengeance, is now pouring across the entire planet over so many of the rest of us. I hope you like my video. As a psychiatrist who loves politics and economics and philosophy, I love to make videos like this, and you can really help promote this video to other people and get it on your feed more by liking and commenting and subscribing to the video as well. We have a wonderful community of people here who comment and support each other through this very traumatic period of world history that we're going through right now. I also hope you consider becoming a subscriber to the channel and also subscribing to my e-newsletter. There's a link in the description, and that way we can stay in touch outside the channel, so you can keep abreast of all of the content that I'm making on an ongoing basis. The latest of which actually is my latest book called We the People. Very, very proud of this book. It's actually a novel, a fiction book written by myself and the famous award-winning author T.J. McGregor. Together we wrote a book about what the future might look like. Bit of a dystopian novel, but what might happen if autocracy goes to its next stage, AI predicting the potential end of humanity. I actually made a video about that, it really happened. And how things might pan out in this dystopian world, and actually how a band of committed, passionate, progressive people managed to change the trajectory, and not in the way that you think. It's not just by running a candidate and opposing the autocrat, but actually by deepening the democracy that we have and engaging in a real participatory form of democracy that sort of shifts the needle and gets us back to basics and helps us sort of rebuild our democracy. And that's within the context of a really compelling, gripping story, a bunch of fascinating characters, and I assure you, you will not be able to sort of stop turning the page until you get to the end of the book. That's what all the reviewers have said so far. Lots of people love it, and I hope you can get it. You can get it on Amazon, any of the global Amazon bookstores out there. Please do order your copy of We the People. Just put We the People Russell Razzaque and you'll be able to find it inside Amazon as well. Also, I hope you consider becoming a member of the channel. You can subscribe to a couple of different membership levels. All members of the channel also get some free ebooks that I produce once a month. You can buy those ebooks too from russellsbooks.com. That's russellsbooks.com, and every month I produce a new ebook on that channel, which is really about, these are the non-fiction books I produce with my team, which is really about how to learn about the world around us and the psychologies of the people who govern us, but also how to learn about ourselves, deepen our own self-awareness in a way that helps us navigate this difficult world we're in right now. So those are sort of self-help books that are produced every month, and if you're a member of the channel, you get a sort of 100% discount on those books every month. Otherwise, you can go to russellsbooks.com, as I say, and buy them anytime you like. I really hope you can become a part of this community, as I say. So this sort of supportive community, validating and helping each other, is really worth being a part of, and I hope you can join us as we all join forces to create a better tomorrow together. Thank you.